You will, yeah,
I'm sorry, what? You're recording?
yeah, just now. Yeah, you caught me off guard there. I didn't hit the button. I was like, oh, okay. What we need to understand too is that not only your will be done on earth as it is in heaven, and that is what God expects us to act upon. As Jesus spoke, Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Well, the challenge Jesus Christ had at that moment was to deal with what would happen, what was going to come upon him. And most of the time in our lives, we see those challenges. And I know that sounds like a reach, but even in the ecological process, we hear people say, well, it is what it is. I've heard that expression recently so many times. I'm tired hearing about it.
I hate
Because the
that.
truth is,
I
it
hate
isn't
that.
what it is.
It's a
God,
cop out.
yes, I believe it is. Um, Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will. Now, there we are back to the will of God and how we are part of that action as Jesus was on the cross. We show our respect for the Creator by our stewardship of creation. Care for the earth is not just the Earth Day slogan, it is a requirement of our faith. We are called to protect people and the planet, living our faith in a relationship with all of God's creation. This environmental challenge has fundamental moral and ethical dimensions that cannot be ignored. We, in our world, get lulled into doing things and we forget the small stuff that we do affects everything. I had a friend named Otis Johnson. Otis Johnson's 6'10". He was a pro basketball player. One of my mentors that taught me that I could actually learn beyond my dyslexia. And it was amazing that I'd walk around with him and he'd throw trash on the ground everywhere he went. I mean, he'd just throw it on the ground and I'd pick it up. I'd pick it up. I, well, he's a gentleman that was just not used to somebody doing that. He actually started calling me, out on it and saying, yeah, well, you're not my slave. Don't pick it up. But I said, why are you doing that? He says, because people need a job. That was his understanding. Oh, yeah, I know. And he asked Teresa, beautiful heart, soul. He taught the Olympic basketball team. He recruited for Auburn. He was a and I'm sitting there saying to myself, what in the world? Well, over time, I began to realize it was the way he was brought up. And the example that I gave him of picking it up all the time, he stopped doing it. He told his kids to stop doing it. And all I did was pick it up. I didn't say anything to him about it. I didn't fight him on the idea that he was throwing trash down. That should be a good, perfect example of how we live. And that's part of what we're talking about. The ecological approach must also include social justice so as to hear both the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. Intergenerational considerations must also be part of these decisions that we make and the direction we go in. This means that humanity is not only beneficiary, but they are also steward to the earth. We are required to be the stewards of the earth, but we also must take into account when we make decisions that we have to take into account how they affect people who may take a hit on what's going on. Simple example, gas. Getting pricey, isn't it? Well, the comment is we're going to all turn green. Well, what happens to all the people that own the mom and pop gasoline stations across the country? In doing so, do we totally destroy their lives? Or the idiocy and the stupidity of ethanol. Where does ethanol come from? Corn. What are we growing? Corn. To do what? Put it in their gas tanks? That is a backwards movement. The comment made is that it's less damaging to the earth. That is the most ridiculous statement I have ever heard. If you grow crops, there is an impact. And the impact of other things. The United States has 13,000 times more natural gas than any other country. That's a scientific fact. Burning natural gas is not nearly as damaging as fuel. And yet, what are we doing? We don't touch it the way we could. We could turn every car that you have right now, I can tell you its engineering possibilities, into natural gas burning cars. Now, obviously, that would be a challenge, but what are we doing? We're saying that our ecology is tied to batteries, which are devastating to the environment, wind generators, that the footprint to make those things, the recuperation of that material is 25 years. So if the wind generator doesn't last that long to pour the metal to heat up the systems and make them happen, it'll take 25 years to get that ecological impact back. Solar panels are good, but they still need to work on making them more efficient. They're running between 24 and 30% efficiency. When if there was an effort to do this. So there's got to be a balance between where we're going with these exchanges. The corn itself, do you know the country pays for farmers not to grow food? And one of the things they're paying them not to grow is corn. And yet that affected the whole world economy.
That doesn't make sense, pay a farmer not to grow something.
I understand. It's to keep the balance in the money. And you know, the government's the last group of people we need to give the paycheck or the checkbook to. And we do. We give it to them. It comes from years ago when milk and other things were trying to make sure that the world market was balanced. Like I'm saying, the United States.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
The ideology behind it should have been put away a long time ago. Yes, please, thank you. It shouldn't even exist right now. There's no reason for it.
Yeah.
You know, it was intended to take care of the Dust Bowl years. You know, so you rotate
That was
the
80
crops.
years ago.
Yeah. Yep. 30s,
Yeah.
30s,
Yeah.
20s. So those things have changed. Does it make sense? Changes in our lifestyles based on moral virtues can ease the way to a sustainable and equitable world economy in which sacrifice will become an obtainable goal once demonstrated and shared by example as his disciples, meaning us, live our lives within the confines of his moral guidance. For many of us, life less focused on material gain will remind us that we should never allow the things of this world to become our masters. That's the one thing that we forget. You know, when we talk about what's the big deal about restrictions when we decide we're going to deprivate? What's it called? It comes up once a year. Easter? What's before Easter?
Lent.
I'm sorry?
Lent.
Lent. What do we do? We're going to give up something, right? Why is it important to give it up? What's the reason behind it? Why are we doing that?
So it doesn't enslave us.
So we recognize that it doesn't enslave us. The other side of that would be, is it appropriate to take advantage of the things that we do come up with? Yes. It's important for us to take the earth and take it into account and use what we were given by God. But there's a balance there. And the balance has to come from us recognizing that we can reduce the temperature on our air conditioning system. We can remember to use less water when we don't need it. We can remember those small things that end up becoming the major things down the road. Weird situation. China one time wanted to make sure they got rid of the excessive amount of flies. So they officially offered every single family fly swatters. Took care of it. Done. I mean, think about that. Just the step of each individual. It wasn't a massive government input with chemicals and whatever else. It was a simple matter of, hey, do this and it works. Rejecting conspicuous consumption, a renewed sense of sacrifice and restraint could make an essential contribution to addressing the global change. So we want to make sure that whatever we're doing, we take advantage of those opportunities to think. The other thing is to respect what we've got. I mean, one of the things we talk about is how difficult things are right now, but my gosh, feel free to go overseas. And we're living in Colombia. The lifestyle there compared to where we are, I could think of several countries right now that you wouldn't want to be in because there's rich and there's poor, and that's pretty much it. And there's a lot more poor than there are rich. And they don't have 2 cars in the garage, TVs in their house, cell phones that are worth $1,200, $1,300. Those kind of things that we enjoy. I wouldn't say tomorrow tack everything up and give it away unless that's what you're inspired to do. But what I would say is respect what you have. Understand God gave you the opportunity to be in this country. Know that you're in a very unique situation. God has said to you, hey, you know what? You're born here. This is great. Enjoy what you've got. And then make sure you share. Make sure you provide back to other people what it is you're getting. Make sure that you bring about change by example, just what I was talking about with Otis Johnson. Some of the choices we make. Humans are indeed problem solvers as intended by God's design. It is in their drive for humanity to find itself often lost in the excessive consumption. But it also is a driving point for them to make life better. And usually what happens is really wild because somebody will come up with an invention or find an answer. Then it becomes a viable option for people to go, wow, that's a great idea. And then the next thing somebody comes along and takes that idea and starts making money off of it. You know, those are things we need to think about. Man's capacity to transform and, in certain sense, create the world through which they work, they often forget that those concepts and ideas were from God. Originally, the gift that gives us this drive to change things, to make things better. Whenever you make a decision, remain within God's law. And always remember that man follows the moral direction he has been given by God. If he remembers this, then the things that they create will remain what they should be. Where do you see things that you saw were great inventions and creations that have become something of a mess? Do you know what those things were? Can you think of one off the top of your head?
Computers.
Computers.
Internet.
Yeah.
Internet.
Mm-hmm.
It has a balance, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Social media.
Social media. Anybody else?
Motor automobile.
Yeah, the actual automobile itself.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. You know, you can burn air compressed at 5,000 psi. It burns just like gas. The byproduct is water. Hydrogen is created. Separation of H2O. When you put it back, the energy byproduct is water. But you got a car running on it. It's amazing. We did it fifth grade. We had one of those systems, and I've watched it separate, and then as it's coming back in. It took a small electricity to separate, but the byproduct was, when it was reformed, the energy byproduct, twice as much as you could get. Why can't we be doing that? So, buying into those things, the world will move and change regardless of our actions. That means the physical world will do what it does, whether we do something or not. Our influence of the earth and its outcomes will never remain as we perceive what they should be, because as we induce these changes without reverence, if we forget to be reverent for what it is that we are changing, what we end up with is always going to be unpredictable, and that's when we run into our problems. The changes then are made not for the betterment of mankind, but more for selfish needs of an individual. And that's what we've got to avoid. That's selfishness. Now think about this. Farmers have always been very confident and driven, and they believe they're very faithful people. They initiate desires to see and success in what they grow. It's amazing. I mean, they put out this field and these things grow, and they are very committed to this. They commit to the process and define every aspect that they can and intend to do. As my wife and I can attest to you, we've been around farmers that grow large crops here in Hastings. And I got to tell you, those people are not stupid. They know the chemistry, they know the time of year, they carry heavy equipment. They do things that you and I would see as very challenging. They are subjugated to whatever is offered by companies to be successful, from seeds, fertilizer, as well in environmental conditions that constantly change. And they're always in transition. And yet they still look at the positive aspects of what they do, even when the final product results are of the highest quality, and yet they still are left with possibly a limited financial return for their work. I don't see them dumping their places. What I see is they try again. And here we are, but they still find the desire to proceed. Why would a farmer continue to proceed? What is your understanding of that? I'd like for you to talk to your neighbors. Talk to your neighbors about, what do you think the farmer coming back? I mean, they've worked real hard. The year comes in, everybody's got a bumper crop of corn, and they're taking a hit. What is the,
What if they're Christian believers because they probably believe that whatever they're doing is the Lord's hand that's helping them, grow. I mean, at least my dad is not a farmer, but my dad loves to plant, he loves to grow seeds and things like that. And he always tells me, I enjoy this because whatever I'm putting in is God's creation that's letting it, out first.
it's a basic
So,
thing, isn't
so
it?
I believe that if farmers are Christian believers, or even if they're not Christians like Catholic, if they believe that there's a, a force out there, it's that force that's bringing upon whatever.
Others?
That's what I think.
Other people?
And that's why they don't give up.
No, that's great. That's what I was looking for, some of it. Anybody else? Got an input on this?
Could be good for self-development, just rising to the challenge.
Yeah, not only that, I'd say that aligns with what I was looking at. What is it that we do that presents the same thing? What is it that we do in our lives that presents the same process, the same idea? What is it that we're looking for? That's the conversation. What is it we're looking for?
But it comes to my mind that they are surrendered to God, which is, in other words, the same answer, I think. And how they are surrendered. For example, in Colombia, I remember there was a volcano who was
Yes.
active,
Yes.
and the authorities started advising everybody to go away from the town, the nearest town,
Yep.
from the volcano. And there were some guys who said, I born here, I raised
And
my
I'm
child
staying.
here, I'm here, so whatever comes, I will die here also. It's my land, it's my and I want my roots. Yeah,
Where
roots.
the
Those where my roots are. So I'm not gonna move away from here.
I would say to you, yes. As a matter of fact, one of the things that you just alluded to was that the most productive crops are in those areas. In Yakima Valley in Washington, the most productive crop area that grows things at the drop of a hat is because the ash. You were in Maui. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Because the ground is refurbished by what happened when the earth spewed up this natural resource. And the ashes help things grow because they are filled with nutrients that otherwise get stripped. Yes. But let's lean into what I was saying. Do you know the word satiation? I hope so. You should. Yeah. One of the things we always challenge ourselves with is something that we can do that provides us with something that fills our heart, not our pockets, not something we can pick up later. But satiation is what those farmers receive. They don't care about what the finality of this is. The intent is that I want to do something that, and I got to tell you, I believe 100% every farmer is a faithful believer in God. I don't believe any farmer that I've ever met has not been said to me, hey, well, God this or God that. And they really mean it because they live that kind of life. Now, how does that affect us in our understanding of the ecology? Simply put, what the amazing thing is about man and mankind is that we assume that we're in charge of everything that's going on. Oops, bad idea. Because what you just said happens. You know, it's one of the things that I've always told people. You keep screwing up the earth, it's going to puke, it'll spit us out, and then we're still going to keep seeing the earth move on. Because God created it, not people. And I love the way people talk about how they're going to fix this or fix that before they understand what they're really looking at. You know, the adjustments they make after they make a boo-boo, and it's usually a big one, sometimes are worse than the actual thing that they've created. You know, we used to have love bugs in Florida. We still kind of do. The intent of the love bug being brought to Florida was to feed the birds that they thought were starving, and the birds can't because the acidic body of the love bugs, they're not palatable to birds. China thought it was a good idea that they had worried about their wheat crops. And they said, you know what, we noticed these sparrows eating the wheat crops. The weird part about it is when they killed a bunch of them, they realized later that the grasshoppers hit the road and took over a lot of their crops. They messed up. God created this planet, so it's going to cause the planet to continue. God created it for us, and we are tied to this planet and the universe, so much so that everything we do ends up falling back on us one way or another. So we have to balance that out. And I'll go back to the ecological impact. If we make a change, does it affect the people first? Why would it be so disturbing to, say, for example, make sure that people in South Africa are getting water? What is the problem there? Well, man wants to control what's going on. Or in the United States with this current economy, what is the big deal about fixing what could be fixed and gradually making it happen? They have a new product out that I've been working with for years, which is called graphene. And graphene is 20 times more conductive of electricity, 200 times stronger than steel. Now they have batteries they've created, and they're beginning to work on that. Graphene itself, mixed properly with the proper layers of, what was the paragicina? I can't remember the exact pronunciation, but it's a way to make solar panels more efficient by double. By double. Why are we sitting on that? Why is it that a college out in California and one in Greece that's creating these new panels from this material, why are we not jumping on that possibility? The reason why is because when we're told about things, we're told based on what's best for the companies that are creating it. That's the bottom line. So we have to investigate. Now, how many people in here voted for purchasing the properties of the sugarcane fields in South Florida when it came up for a vote? If you were here in the last 8 years, you voted one way or another. Don't remember it, right? It was an interesting concept. 1821 is when we started sugarcane fields, and sugarcane fields got really big, 28 plus square miles of South Florida. What we had actually done is created a new Florida, because they burned those sugarcane fields twice a year. Florida used to have rain, and you could set your clock to it. What it was a man-made natural watershed, and they didn't even know it. By the ash being in the air, they created a greater amount of cloud creation. So the timing that we saw on that rain was because of the burning of those cane fields. And the reduction in heat in Florida was because of the burning of those cane fields, because when I moved to Florida, I noticed there were clouds, just puffy clouds, all the time. Now it's a hotter environment. So we...
Then you see, I'm hot.
I was watching you. I'm going, she's selling my point. She's selling my point. So the main reason why this occurred is because we decided that the sugarcane company, the people that made that sugar for years, had decided to move to South America. And they wanted subsidies for their property. And in the process, we were told we were going to create a watershed because we weren't going to build on those properties, which is not happening totally, because some contractors are pushing out there on this property that shouldn't be built on and building more property. The fact remains that we had never investigated. We had created a watershed. That water that was coming into this property, Florida, was from the ocean. We had created an unknown natural resource for water desalination. Whoa, surprise. Yeah, that's what I investigate. That's why I have my bioethics degree, to get into these things. It was decided that people would vote. The way the paper was written that went out, if you voted yes, they'd still get the money. If you voted no, they still got the money. When I pointed that out to certain state representatives, they told me I didn't know what I was talking about, but then there was an investigation and they still went through with it. And they ended up being correct. They just basically pushed it through. Now, what does that have to do with the ecology? Simple. You have these kind of options to investigate as a disciple of God when you make those decisions. Seems like unimportant. How many people actually knew what I was talking about when I said, did you vote on this? Yeah, see what I'm saying? So those decisions that have to be made, we have to be responsible, right? So if we're voting, it's like one of those things we throw away. We don't even investigate the judges. Notice the judges' problems in the state of Florida? Yeah. We vote some of those people in and we don't even know what they do. So this kind of plays off to the side. I apologize, but I'm leaning in that direction and saying there's more to this. So now we are going to do something as a project before the next time we meet. You're going to love me for this. And as a deacon, you must do this. You must do this. It's not a choice. I'm the deacon. I'm telling you. Yeah, right. I would like for you to make a list of the things that you think that you could do to change the way the earth is being taken care of. The things that you know you could make the difference on. Even if it's just something as simple as turning down the air conditioning system at certain times of the day, or maybe making sure that one car goes instead of two. Those kind of things, those individual things. Make a list of those things and then share it with your neighbors. As a teacher, I'm going to give you a time limit. 5 minutes.
All right now?
And Teresa has pencil. I have pencils over here somewhere because I brought them in. Did you pick them up?
Yeah, in your pocket.
Never mind. I'm going to stab myself. Oh, yeah. Pencils. I have, that's a first. That's a first for me. She always has the purse, you know. Which she pulls out the purse and the kitchen sink comes out. Do you have a kitchen sink in there? We have pencils. We have paper. You can pull off this sheet. Just, make a list of things and then share it out with your neighbors to see what they think. Here you go, Mark. I'm sorry.
Should we write what we could do or what we are doing?
What we could do and what you think you're doing now that you're applying, because, like, again, we're going to share it and then we're going to apply this. Now, I have a plan to take our ministry to the next level. What I'd like to do, once we start playing around with this and see how it works, I'd like to present it to the church.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Why not? Why shouldn't we try? Make a difference. I tried to speak to Father, and I know I told you about solar panels, but I had explained to him we could have gotten free solar panels to help supplement the church's electricity. And before I could even get my information out, somebody in the church that was on the council said, no, you can't do that. And I went, wow, okay. I know the guy who runs Solar Fit, and he was going to do us a favor if we could give him the property from which to build it. My intention was to build a platform out here and give everybody cover over your parking lot, and then take the solar panels and then use that. And currently the federal government has issued to certain states that are in the sunny part of the world free solar panels. Yeah, exactly. And again, I know it's not exact, but it's an idea. You know what I mean? Like I said, the solar panels are not exactly as efficient as it should be, but it's something.
It's something better than what we currently have.
Yeah. And the reason why they're pushing that agenda is because they're worried about electricity being a problem, because the grid is really not what it should be.
Yeah.
And if we should have a solar flare,
What do you mean, Deacon Ed? The grid is right at top notch for 1945-50. We're right up there. They haven't done much since then.
I know.
It's state of the art for 1950.
Yep, it sure is. And like I said, when you're done and you made a list, hand it to your neighbors, see what they've got, see what they're doing. I see if some of you are really reaching, like, I get this. Could be something as simple, and I know that, like, the recycling issue in Palm Coast is kind of, I don't understand why.
Iffy?
Well, it's iffy, yes, I know.
Yeah.
I tried to get St. Johns County to get involved with their recycling program, and that was the biggest hassle I've ever seen in my life. I was demonstrating what they could do, purchasing grinders to take the material and turn it into viable material. We also have a couple 6 years ago that started creating solar panels from used glass and plastic for street, so that they could turn them into streets. Panels. They did a test with the money they got, and they created, a couple 100 yards worth of street. And what was amazing is those panels, not only were they panels that removed the idea of a street, but they were able to make channels to support the system, so wires, power lines, telephone wires would actually be somewhere you could get it in these channels. On the other side, it was drainage. So even up north, if this thing was fully engaged, when the snow comes, you wouldn't have to worry about snow, because the energy would be transferred to those areas that don't have as much sun and keep the temperature just above like 33 or 34. So think of the snow removal, salt that is engaged, all those things there, a good environmental transition. But somebody brought them out, and they stopped doing what they were doing.
I have a question.
Sure.
With this list, it's pertaining to each person, correct?
Yeah, what you would do as an individual,
Okay, that's what I
there's
thought.
no way to do that. That's what I'm implying in the conversation is
That's what I
a lot of
thought.
people were upset about the environment. They talk about how they want to change everything green and whatever else, but they forget the impact to the average person who doesn't have the money to do things like buy an electric car, $50,000-$60,000 later. And
I wonder if an electric van, like my van with the ramps and the automatic doors and stuff, would that work on an electric car? Like a special,
yeah,
like a-
they can do it. It's just very expensive. You would have to have
Like
a
a
separate.
specialty
You'd
equipment.
you'd have to have a separate power pack to create the energy you need for all that electrical equipment.
So I need to be a zillionaire is what you're saying.
Well, it's always interesting. I mean, Ford came out with a truck and said, "Here it is." They didn't bother to tell you that 9 years down the road you got to replace all those batteries.
Yeah.
They don't bother to say that that's going to cost you almost as much as a new vehicle. Let's buy this. Let's plug it in. And where does the electricity come from? Oh, yeah, that's right, the air. So all those companies that are suggesting electric cars, the stupidity of that is you have to get it from a power plant company. So the energy concept in the cars and plugging them in has nothing to do directly with helping the environment. It has more to do with control. So you want to drive across country, you put gas in your car, right? Okay. How are you going to do that when you have to plug in every 300-400 miles?
300-400 miles.
Yeah, how far are you going to get?
It'd take you like a week to get across the country.
Yeah, the general population listens to what the news tells them, and they run down the road going, "Yay, we can do this."
I mean, I know it's different than a car,
No,
but my share, I charge it like, it depends on what I do. But normally speaking, if I'm not out every day, I charge it every 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Now, if I'm away on vacation and I'm sightseeing and out doing things, I'll charge it every night.
Mm-hmm.
But on a normal day or a normal week, I charge it twice.
Yeah, well, you have things to do. But the implication of my statement was sometimes we have to look at what's being offered and understand that it's not always what you think it is, that people that are trying to make something out of it. And our as a disciple of God, we have to look at those things and make our choices. Now, electric vehicles came out, AMC was around back in, that would have been what, when I met you, it would have been 74? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they had a bunch of them. They were trying to sell them. We even had a guy at Disney World that was a part of the, barbershop quartet.
Yep.
He had one. It ran fine, but the practicality was not there, and it went under because people said, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
There are other
In
ways.
other words, trying to push everybody in California to get electrical vehicles is
Yeah, exactly.
absurd.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, the next thing that they talked about that kind of blew me away is they want to take all the World Health Organization, as usual, has made another interesting statement and suggests that all of our students need to learn on the metaverse to reduce the impact to the ecology. Now, I got to tell
That's
you,
crazy.
socialization skills are gone.
Exactamente.
Yeah. So why would
Yeah, remember what
you do
said?
that?
Bad things about computer and about exactly.
I know.
To make people robots.
When they said that, I
Make people
knew
robots, exactly.
I knew exactly what they were doing. Yes, Mark.
So that reminded me of about that topic. I looked into cryptocurrency back when it was still, when it first
Brand new.
started up.
Mhm.
But since then, basically the way cryptocurrency is made is by computing harder and harder mathematical problems.
Yeah.
So that all takes computers of increasing power. There's a ton of electricity being wasted that way.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's not necessary, is it? Now, let's go around the room and get some sharing going on, because you guys didn't pass the papers back and forth. Come on now,
Listening to you.
Oh, my gosh, I'll stop talking.
It was
Tracy tells me,
interesting.
you talk too much. What?
It was interesting.
It was?
You
Good.
learn.
Yeah,
You learn.
good. Well, let's go. What did you come up with?
I don't use AC during summer.
Oh,
Keep the
whoa.
windows open.
God
I
bless
know.
you.
Because I
Oh,
come
man,
from
you're my
tropical
hero.
country.
You are my hero. That's
I come
actually,
from a tropical country.
yeah, but
Grew up in-
you did it. That's what I was talking, I mean,
Oh,
I mean, that's fantastic.
That's
I mean, I have my lawn.
Yeah, keep the windows open.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness.
At night, just
The
I need to learn how to do that.
They all have screens, right? The
Ah,
windows?
perfect.
Yeah,
Okay.
they have
Then if
screens.
that comes, okay, but I don't
That's
use the
true.
heater during the winter time, so.
We got you covered.
I use the heater for lunch.
We got you covered. That's awesome. So,
Does that mean that you use an electric blanket?
No.
no, these are things that only a teacher would come up with. Hint, because that's what we do with our students all the time. What would you like to share, please?
Let's see. I also wanted to reduce my electricity usage by increasing the temperature of the house.
Yeah, yeah.
But also reduce the temperature of the hot water heater while I'm away.
Yeah, yes. That's a great idea, otherwise it's wasted.
Turn that thing when you're upside down.
Okay, one thing I had was, I had a drip in my sink,
There you go.
and it's because it kept dripping and dripping. At first I didn't think about it, it's dripping and doing all that. Well, then I started thinking, okay, we're gonna put this in this container, and we're gonna have a drip, and then that's how I'm gonna water my flowers.
Well, there you go. And you didn't have to call a plumber.
Yeah,
I
and
like
also
it.
with, also with washing hands and stuff, I think about that often, like during the hurricanes, like when we shouldn't be using all this stuff. How you tend to, at least I did, tend to wash your hands quick, turn the water off, soap up, that type of thing, then turn the water back on real quick, wash your hands and do it. Whereas normally what
Just let it run.
is you're just letting it
Oh,
run
yeah,
all the time.
yeah,
You
definitely.
don't think about what you're doing.
No, I know. I had to. I would like to say I don't do that, but that's exactly what I do. Would you like to share?
I put a few things. I said, like, make sure to recycle more articles at home, because sometimes you have and so, no, put it on the recycling bin. He already said they increase the temperature at home during the daytime. Also, probably we could do laundry at a time during the daytime when it's not that hot outside.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
Because that doesn't consume that much electricity, and in itself, it won't heat up your house, the inside of your house as much. Therefore, you're not gonna have the necessity to, wanna bring your temperature down to cool yourself.
Yes.
The other thing is like, close the blinds on the backyard, close blinds, try to
Absolutely.
during the daytime.
Yes.
Because even though it looks dark, because that'll cool down the house. The other thing is maybe buy like one of these blue large containers that can collect rainwater.
Yes.
Because that water can be utilized. My
Yes.
dad has told me he does that, and that's water that it really is collected. It's clean water. You
Yes.
can use it. Even if during hurricane season to flush toilets or to do things. The other thing is, I don't do it, but I see some people that with water. The yard outside does not need to be cleaned with water. You could just sweep it instead of cleaning it with water. So
There's a lot of little things there to add up real quick.
I'm so happy because I'm not the only crazy person in Palm Coast. I'm also not using air conditioning.
Yeah.
Times 3 years.
Well,
Okay.
Try to an extreme. Avoid using, even though I have this plastic bottle, one-use plastic items. We are filling the ocean with one-use plastic.
Yeah, there's ocean islands
full
of plastic.
That deserves a session by itself, which is taking a natural resource, turning it in probably a very toxic process to turn it into plastic. It's not going to degrade for maybe hundreds of years. You use it once and throw it away into the environment. So anyways.
No, that's very good. That's very good.
Try to avoid waste in general. In this society, we waste so much in so many ways.
Food.
That is not a good idea. And the last thing I'll mention is where I work, I have access to good, strong, sturdy boxes. So I bring to Publix a big box, and I avoid all those plastic bags.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
No, that's very good.
That's smart.
You don't get off the hook.
Nope, I don't have anything. I'm not buying into this whole fanatic stuff about the green and saving the planet. I'm just leaving it up to God.
Well, no,
I
that's
already live a
no.
very simple life. I don't have
No. What we said was
if that's what you feel like you're doing something good, I don't.
No, what I said to you earlier was it's not a matter of anything. You said leave it up to God, and I said God makes you the handmaid. So the decisions you make are part of that. So when you say it's not a matter of Green Deal. I didn't say, a matter of fact, when I said about the cars with the batteries, what I suggested to you was what? That that's not a good way to go. Why? Because it affects the environment. But when you don't respect what you have, for example, if you do waste things, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the respect of what you actually have. So to say it's tied to the green environment, that's exactly the opposite of what I just said. What I suggested to you was, what steps do you take to conserve what you're getting that God gave you as a gift? Do you respect that? Or is it like toys you get for Christmas 3 months later and you just throw it away?
I respect that.
There you go. Then if you're doing that, if
God gives me, I have a lot of respect for
then
it.
if you're doing that,
And
you're
I
already
live modestly, and I don't kill bugs. I take them up from the Holy of Holies and I take them outside because I know a bird needs to eat.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's about the extent of my behavior.
Yeah. And that's what you're already doing it. Because you said you live what?
I live very
Then you're already doing it. So it's not counter to what we just said. It's actually part of what we said. You're already doing that.
Yes, I know, but people are getting fanatics about everything.
Well, that's why I brought it up.
Yeah.
Do you understand that?
Stuff in their automobiles and they eliminate batteries and everything else. Give me a break. It's not going to happen.
No, but do you understand that that's exactly what I'm talking about?
Yes, I understand.
Yeah. So you've already done it. You've already created it. You're right on it.
I know. But see, the more we talk about it, the more people panic. People are panicking over things that you're not going to control it, and life moves on.
Life does move on, but there are people out there that don't follow what you're doing. And what they don't do is what we said. Learn to respect, just like I mentioned the farmers. They do it anyway, despite the challenges that come up. So what we want is we want people to learn how not to worry about those things. Well, part of it is to learn that what you're getting, you respect it and take good care of it. It's like I would say to you, anytime you get a plant, how much do you take care of it? My professor in bioethics used to do what with plants?
Propagate them.
Yeah, but I meant as far as what was the plant that he kept playing with?
Oh, was it the violet? No, yeah.
But people would let them pretty much die, and he would show us how simple it was to maintain them. They either overwatered them or underwatered them. So
it was like China with the one-child policy and, and all the baby girls murdered, aborted. And now 20 years later, the men are not finding ladies to marry because they got rid of all the girls, so they're kidnapping women from the Philippines to marry their Chinese men.
Yeah.
So,
It's sad. It's sad. Well, and again, I'll go back to what I suggested before. It is the simplest things that you do that escalate to higher level just by their own emanation. You spoke about Otis. I didn't have to do anything special, but it was my respect for the planet where I said, trash on the ground, that means we have to look at it, pick it up. And it was not intentionally made to play off on that. Now, the same goes with, you said about people being extreme about the environment. That was my other side when I said, okay, you have an environmental impact and you've decided to change everything. But in doing so, are you affecting everybody in the long run, which means you destroyed the process in the first place? You can't help people. And like you said, too, with the children in China, their biggest challenge right now is India. It's catching up to them. And the population of India will overtake China in the next, 7 years. So.
Well, I've got a biology degree, so I can talk about this for hours, but a couple things we can do is shop local, because they don't have, if you...
Yes!
Yeah, it helps the local people, it helps the small farmers and stuff. And all of that stuff that's getting shipped from like India, for instance, or China, it has to get here, so it gets on a big ship, goes across, gets driven, and that's not free.
No.
Another thing you can do is for gardens and stuff, grow native plants.
Yeah.
That way, because like for instance, Virginia creeper is all over the place. Well, that might not be the best example, but
Kudzu?
yeah, kudzu, yeah, just like they started off as ornamental plants.
Yeah.
And they ended up in the environment. And then one thing I could do personally is I have a moped that I haven't maintained. I have to get that thing back on the road because it gets like 100 miles to the gallon. So
Every time I see, well, you mentioned the Philippines, right? And they gather up people and put them all on one vehicle and drive down the road, or like in Taiwan, I saw one time. This guy had, it looked like what would belong on a truck, all piled up, and he's driving down the road, and his bike is actually like slightly slanted backwards, and I go, wow, that's some serious doing. Do you want me to join in here? Because I know you're going to hold off. Yes, or you got something to say?
Well, we just got an EV, and so my plan is to start using that more than I use the car. So once I get the hang of not killing myself on it, I'm going to venture further out on it and hopefully not use the car as much.
EV is what?
EB, electric bike.
Same
Electric bike.
It's just an electric bike, but it's
There's not much to it.
a bicycle. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bicycle. The reason for this was because I ride a bicycle, I'm
I can't keep
intense, and she can't keep up sometimes. But you still pedal. It's pedal assist.
Yeah.
So it kind of reduces the amount of impact. Yeah. Or she just brought a vehicle that just ran off of electricity, gas, whatever. It wouldn't be the same. This way, it's pedal assist. They have the ability to recoup that power and whatever else. So it's pretty cool. You mentioned locally. How many people know that Winn-Dixie has sales on meat on a regular basis?
Yeah,
Do you pay attention to
Buy
it?
locally.
Yeah.
You buy because they do it local. Their beef comes from Florida. And they're killing the rest of the market when everybody's saying, "Oh, T-bone steak is $14 a pound." And you watch for the sale, and they'll sell it to you at a reasonable price. And the advantage, back to what we talked about, is they're getting it from local people instead of buying it from the middle United States. And so that's helping the environment as well. So what you said about helping local businesses, that's really a good thing too. But it keeps everything in check. So it works very well.
It's so hard to not use Amazon. I know Amazon, I love it and I hate it at the same time, but they make it so convenient.
Yes.
It shows up at the house.
Next day.
Some of the things you guys said, but I think I said I wanted to maybe plant more plants and also, vegetables or fruit
Oh,
plants and
yeah,
stuff like
yeah.
that. When we were buying the house, we were actually thinking about just like another like 2-floor house or like a bright home, like because it's a smart home and it has like solar panels. So we went that direction because we're like, all right, let's see how we can help the environment. And like our electricity bill now, it's gonna be like $6 because it's helping save energy and not using too much energy. And then I think this one was silly, so I put a question mark, but it was like, sometimes at church, I think because I got this from Father Knight, he'd be like, all right, guys, close the door. And I'm like, now I sometimes notice people leave the door open I know it's not environmental, but I'm like, hey, guys, close the door. It's nice and cool in there, and then I think people look at me like, oh, this little girl, like, she's weird. Like, what she doing? Like, I'm like, no, close the door. Like,
No,
'cause
that's the small stuff we
that's
talked
the small
about.
stuff.
That's
And
the
then
small stuff.
some of the stuff you guys already said, like I think about plastic water bottles. I used to use a lot of plastic water bottles, but now we're trying to maybe doing gallons, like going to, I think if it's Publix or Walmart that you can actually
Refill.
Yeah.
refill.
Yeah.
And we weren't doing that, which was silly, but that's something that we should do.
I remember we used to get money to return bottles all the time.
Yeah.
I
And I
remember
gotta
that
tell you,
too.
that still was viable. I mean, it doesn't take that much to do what they used to do,
Yeah.
and it worked. I don't understand why. Yeah, I do
Why they
know why.
stopped it.
Convenience.
Oh, and then carpool. Sometimes I do carpool with one of my son's friends, just to come to school or to church. And I'm like, that's not a bad. Like, if you live close, like, why not? Instead of using two vehicles.
It's also good for a social interaction where
That's
people become more aware of your neighbor's issues and whatever else. That's how you
Yeah.
get. So you get a chance to evangelize.
Oh, nice. Look at
I jumped on that one. That's got to do it. How many people are pretty aware of recycling your waste from your house to turn it into better soil?
Like
They-
compost?
Yeah.
They have, I forgot what it's called, but it's like it's really small. And you just put all your waste in there, and then you can use it for like planting and stuff like that.
Well, she used to teach the kids at school how to propagate worms.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that hard.
Unfortunately, my dad is not here tonight, but if he would be telling you all about it.
There you go. So you take, like something as simple as coffee grounds and, certain vegetables, obviously no meat, but all that stuff gets revised. My Italian family, my grandmother and grandfather Bende, everything grew in the yard. They didn't go to the store except when they had to. And we're talking about a place in New Jersey, not in the farm, we're talking in the city. So they did the square foot gardening and whatever else, and the difference, the food was always better.
Nice.
So those kind of things. And not everybody can do that, but at the same time when you're struggling, this is a good way to go. These are things that help you, and then you gain a better respect for what you're growing. Back to that farmer issue. And you mentioned plastic. Do you know there's a teenager that has figured out how to reconstitute all of that with an unreasonable amount of energy? And all I got was the article 3 months ago, and I have not been able to find out what's happening from that point. He's figured out how to even reconstitute the styrofoam plastic, which is hard to do. And he has the ability to do this. What he's trying to work on. He's all of, 15. Yeah, I know. He's all of 15. So, the possibilities are there. And there we are back with what she was saying about God taking care of things. Here's a young man that came along and said, if we don't abort the poor kid, here he comes along with ideas that help the environment, And that's part of what we talked about. Answers are there if we follow God's requirements. And we don't make restrictions that we're not supposed to. Just like population control. It's not what we're supposed to do. The answers come along because we have faith in people being close to God. And as long as we remain there, we'll always have answers that we didn't think of. You're up.
Okay. The one thing I thought that I could do is use less water. Because I have to drink a lot for kidney stone reasons. And I can't lift the big packets of water.
Oh, yeah.
So I try to if I do use a plastic water bottle, I refill it for like a month in the fridge, put it in the fridge, reuse it that way.
Yeah, we do that
And then the other thing I thought of was that I already do. I recycle with the help of my cleaning lady. She takes it out to the road for me. And I only turn all the lights in the house at dark.
Yeah.
And when I do, I only do one light at a time, one room at a time. And if I just leave to go to the bathroom,
I just got kicked.
I'll leave the light.
Because I don't turn the lights out all the time.
I'll turn it off.
Oh, no. She'll turn it off before I even get out of the room. And I'm like, but honey, I'm serious. I'm starting to get cataracts. I don't know if everybody understands what I'm talking about now. So
I do. I've had them
Oh,
twice.
I'm getting them now, and it's like, it's a little darker, so I'm looking for the bright lights. And she'll go click. And I'll go,
Now, if I'm just going out to go to the bathroom and I'm doing something in the living room, like reading my Bible and doing my Bible study or watching a movie on Turner Classic or anything like that, I'll leave the light on just for those few minutes. But if I'm going to be in there a while, or if I'm taking a shower, or my stomach's upset, or whatever it is, brushing my teeth or whatever, I will turn off the light. Turn on the light in the bathroom. Turn that off when I've always done that.
well, you do a good job then.
So those are the things that I thought of.
What you got?
I already do a lot.
There you go.
With disabled.
Like I
but
said.
I have been actually before we even, came here.
Came here,
The
yeah.
Lord's been on me for it's just that I feel that when I turn on the water faucet to wash my hands or whatever, don't just put it on like a lot, put it on less, put it on a smaller amount. And then just turn off my Roku when I finish watching TV instead of leaving it on, because it goes into fish tank mode. and it's kind of fun to watch the fish. But
Yeah,
but
that
I
would
just
be
leave
fun.
it on and I don't turn it off, and that wastes energy. So.
Yeah.
But there's like really important thing that I wanted. That can I bring it up?
Sure.
It's that really has been on my mind that I've been watching on the news is what's happening to the farmers in the Dutch farmers in what the government's trying to do is confiscate their land because they're saying that they're planting crops that's creating too much nitrogen and too much oxide, I think it is, into the environment or into the air. And these are the Dutch farmers are the number 2 exporter besides the United States of food for the whole world, and they want to confiscate their crops, and they're instigating a famine. They're actually, it's like they're trying to create a famine, and it's because they're using the environment as an excuse.
Exactly.
And this is an abuse.
Exactly.
An abuse upon the world. It's not just the Dutch farmers, but it's upon the world.
Yeah,
it really upsets me.
It
makes me very angry to watch this.
Well, it's similar to the war in Ukraine.
Yeah.
With the wheat. I mean, why is this? Why isn't everybody raising Cain about that directly? Because again, there are some people that are in charge that want to control pretty much everything.
Everything.
They want a
and
world.
It's all about control.
They want a world organization. They don't want individual countries anymore. They are pushing towards that social justice that exists all over the world, and the agenda is right in front of us. Nobody's saying it's not happening. What was it on the announcement the other day, right? With a government official that said, well, we would do that, but the world, what was it?
Liberal world order.
The New World Order would not
Yeah.
accept
Liberal
that,
world
order.
whatever that was. And I'm going, okay, so we're not even hiding it anymore.
No.
And the sad part about it is 5 years ago, I was doing a study on the distance between the rich and the poor all over the world. And I was doing it under statistics. And Teresa was helping me out. And what I found is we found out the issue with housing versus how many people live in the poorer sections and whatever else. This will amaze you. The distance between the poorest people and the richest people in history 5 years ago was the closest it's ever been in man's existence. 5 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because everybody had started working towards helping each other. And the numbers were staggering. They had changed in 10 years. The percentage was a little over 30% exchanged, so it went massive. Because people were starting to understand that they could share out because they had it. They had the ability to do this. And it just got lost in this little process right now. What we're seeing right now, the deprivation is just, it's like watching hour time glass with the sand. It's going down. So I don't understand why it was that close, and then suddenly somebody's going, wait a second, we're just going to make this worse?
Greed.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
That's it.
Power and control.
That's it.
But it's also they want to control the world's food. They want to control energy.
No, just like you mentioned about the electric cars.
And then
Can't
they
drive
want to
electric
control
cars forever.
IT,
I know.
like AI. And so they want to control all these factors so that...
Hold on to your books, folks. Because think about it, if they're controlling what's being produced on this, and that's what everybody's leaning on, you don't have a book to refer to. I think my students demonstrated that a few years back when we were building buildings using tagboard. We were taking buildings they'd pick, like the Empire State Building, and they were looking for their heights because I made them scale it. Well, when we went on the internet, some of those buildings had 3 different numbers. But if I took out an Encyclopedia Britannica, the numbers are always the same. And if I looked at any other encyclopedia, the numbers are the same because they had to prove it first before they could print it. So hold on to your books.
They don't even print those anymore. All they have is a website now, right?
Yeah, the biggest
something?
challenges that would come up later would be that they're going to say that having books printed is an ecological impact that they don't want anymore.
It's gonna be the same
And
thing with everything.
once they
Like,
turn around and suggest that's the only method, and then they turn around and start using this language thing, like when you use an inappropriate language. The other day it was mentioned that the women are not women, they are whatever.
Birthing persons.
Yes, birthing persons. Yeah, those kind of things. Once they do that and make it illegal, what do you think can the Bible be published
They're
if
not
it's
even,
considered?
they can't even be called mothers, birthing people.
Well, no, but you understand what I'm saying? How that would impact everything we do? Because California in certain part of California, they tried to ban the Bible.
Oh, seriously?
Right now, yes.
Thank you.
I did.
Well, they don't want religion because you have faith. If you have faith, you have hope. If you have hope, you'll go against the government. You won't follow the government. But if you have no hope, you live in destitute. That's the way it works. So these things that we're talking about right here and now are to make sure we understand things. Again, we're not going to be able to turn around and fix whatever it is. That's the point of the whole conversation.
Yeah.
It's
I
what,
wear my button every day.
yes,
Pray for Ukraine.
yes.
Because they got crazy. I give them out I go to Publix or I go to Winn-Dixie and say, oh, that's a nice button here. I make them. Have it.
You're doing a fantastic job. Do you remember Bosnia?
Yes.
And do you remember what happened with the visionaries? Same thing. All they did was turn around and start praying. And the whole thing changed. Well, and that's what has to be done.
Powerful
Pray
weapon.
and fast, yeah.
Prayer and fast. What'd you say? I didn't hear that.
Well, I said fasting.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
let's do it more often, not just
No,
once.
you understand what I'm
Yeah.
saying. It's the same thing we talked about the ecology. It's not so much that we worry about what's going to happen overall. What we want to do is prepare ourselves for the possibility of not getting everything, of not having everything. Saying to yourself, okay, so what? I would worry about my neighbors right now.
Yeah.
They're in a super high-end house and everything's done for them. And what would happen because the kids are tied to all this stuff and dad took away the computer one time and you would have thought he committed a crime.
No, it's like something that the TV is shooting out to our kids. It's like diabolical. Like I try to let my kids only watch TV like 30 to an hour, like or sometimes like the
Subliminal?
mass is like an hour and a half. But no, it's I don't know. I truly
It
believe
retrains the brain.
Yeah.
You all say your prayers repetitive, right? When you say the rosary.
Yeah.
Why is that a good idea?
Those are words that come from the Bible. Hail, full of
Add
grace.
to that. Well, how does it affect you cognitively? It improves your mind.
Remember.
No, it improves your mind. Yeah, because the pattern of thinking. What comes into your head to start out with? What is it? Left and right, correct? Wrong or right? That's the first step. Well, if you're constantly improving your neural net connection to a positive side, then the world is a better place.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, that makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense.
And there's a tone. What's the megahertz?
I don't remember.
430 or something like that.
432.
For chanting. That helps your brain solve itself. I mean, how long have the monks been doing that?
Interesting.
It's just like going to confession. Nothing like having a psychologist for free. Gee, that's real conservative. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry I took a little more time than I expected. Hopefully we got a lot out of it.
It went by fast.
What?
It went by fast.
No,
Yes,
it did.
sir.
It felt like
Well,
half time.
just the opportunity to talk about the point. When you asked the question, I thought about first, gasoline, my car, stop using your car. How can you stop using your car? Oh, we go for the electrical car, go with bike. How can they live here without the car?
Yeah.
It's too far away. Everything's too far
Then
away.
cell phones, why were you using then those cell phones? If those kills also, they are saying in Australia, researchers have done that they are killing the bees, and bees is like life. We have life because we have bees.
Yeah.
The people say that. Yeah. Yeah. There is a scientific point with the new inventions, the new breakthrough is that whatever comes, like the car, they knew that CO2 will contaminate the
Yeah.
world. They knew that.
Yeah.
But they also knew as scientific that they can research, and they will overcome those problems. But the idea is to have the cars because we need them. Yeah? And then when I thought about those 2 points, and then I thought about finally, it's about human sensibility.
Yep.
And then where it comes to human sensibility? Education, formation from home, which is being lost because right now we don't have families. The structure of the society, which is the family, is not there. And going back to one point is being in one church, like Jesus wants us to be in one church. And his church, the only church, is the Catholic Church. And the ecumenical word that everybody is using lately, or lately no, since 1964 maybe, when that there was a pope, like a magisterium meeting, whatever. The point is that ecumenical means that we will get the bread, the Eucharist. Whoever eat that I will be in him and he will be in me.
No, it's actually a true science statement.
Then that's where we have to work really is to work on being together in one church with love, with living our principles, our beatitudes, our message in the Bible. Like don't be irritated, don't get mad. Moses said there to don't kill, but I tell you, don't get mad. And also in James 5:9 says, do not complain. Hey, how can you ask me? Do not complain. I'm always complaining. The car, the heat, the weather, it's cold now, it's heat, sometimes we are complaining. The point of complaining is that when we don't have a solution, when we don't have the positive, that you mentioned here, somebody, be positive. Sometimes we worry about this dust here. That corner is a mess. It's there's a lot of trash there, but we are worried about the dust here. Why? So human sensibility, and the idea is to be attached to God, to Jesus Christ, and to his message, but living the message and trying to be together. Be conscious, be aware of what's going on, and decide because of that, not because of material things.
Yeah, I guess complaining about, because I guess it's not complaining but angry. Like I remember Jesus was upset when they were selling in the temple. So like it depends if we're complaining or being, active, proactive with certain things that are not done right. Because like I was talking to one of my brothers and sister Protestants today, and she's like, "Oh, I didn't vote for Trump or Biden." I'm like, "Why not? That's our duty." Because like that one vote could have changed what's happening in the world today. None of us are perfect. And maybe I'm throwing myself off a little bit, but then you're right. We should be one, as in we are all God's body and we're part of His body. Mm-hmm. But because we can't twist an arm, what do we have to do? Fasting and prayer. Pray for all Christians to be one. Because you're absolutely right in that area. But it's just like we can talk about that, but it's hard because not everybody understands that it's true that this is the one true church that Jesus left. Peter, you are the rock, and on this rock I will build my church. They don't understand that. That's unfortunate. Just wanted to share.
That's good. It's good. Each time we take a step in the direction, like I said, when we do fasting or we look at, we'll go back to the ecology. When we take the steps in the ecology to do those things, the attempt is to rejuvenate ourselves, to think more consciously of each thing, to enjoy what we have and respect what we have, as opposed to just abusing it over and over again to where it becomes a brain thought that says, well, I don't care what your problem is, I have to do this. Well, whatever that is it that important that you're willing to push off somebody or to do those things? So in the smaller, minor details of the things we spoke about, those are the ways that we begin to recognize that we do it not just for the ecology, but we do it with each other. We do it, unification, as you mentioned, is where it should be. Everybody needs to follow what God has to offer. And you said, I am in you and you are in me. Jesus taught science, and everybody misses the boat. We just think we understand science. We just unpeel things, but it's already there. And that's why I said, if nobody did anything, the Earth's still going to do what it does. You take energy from one place, it's still going to do what it does. I'm going to close.
Yep,
it's so good though. It's probably when we were here 40 minutes. I didn't even feel like it was
No, he did not.